On the eve of the Six-Day War, in June 1967, more than 200,000 Arab troops and 1,000 tanks were positioned near Israel's borders, threatening to destroy the Jewish state. During the war, Israel pushed back the armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, and captured territory that had been used to attack and threaten Israel. Immediately after the war, Israel signaled that it would give up captured territory for peace, but the Arab countries refused to recognize or negotiate with the State of Israel. 5 months after the Six-Day War, the United Nations passed Resolution 242, calling on Israel to withdraw from captured territories without specifying how much, while also calling on its neighbors to end aggression against Israel and to recognize its right to live in peace within secure and recognized boundaries. This came to be known as the Land for Peace formula. Israel was willing to part with newly captured territories in the Sinai, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and even the West Bank, despite its historical significance for the Jewish people, in return for peace. Again, the Arab states refused to negotiate peace. However, 12 years later, following another unsuccessful war launched by Arab states, and after many rounds of diplomacy, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat signed a peace treaty with Israel. In return for peace, Israel withdrew from the Sinai Peninsula, nearly 90% of the area it captured in the Six-Day War. 15 years later, in 1994, Israel also signed a peace treaty with Jordan. For the Arabs who live in the West Bank and Gaza, the last 50 years have been difficult. While there has never been a Palestinian state, the dream of achieving one has only grown during this time. However, for decades following the Six-Day War, Palestinian leaders rejected living alongside Israel. They believed that all of the land from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea, which includes all of Israel, belonged to them. Hopes soared during the 1990s when the Oslo peace process seemed to offer a negotiated path to a Palestinian state and peace with Israel. Some important progress was made by setting up an elected government for Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority, that governs daily life for most Palestinians to this day. The Oslo process led to the Camp David summit in 2000, where Israel offered the Palestinian Authority a two-state solution. Had the Palestinians accepted this proposal, a Palestinian state would have been created in the West Bank and Gaza, with eastern Jerusalem as its capital. But hopes for peace were dashed once again with the Palestinian Intifada of the early 2000s, when Palestinian suicide bombers and terrorists attacked Israelis in restaurants and buses, killing more than 700 Israeli civilians. In 2005, in another attempt to end the violence and foster peace, Israel unilaterally withdrew all Israeli forces and Jewish communities from the Gaza Strip. This involved uprooting some 8,000 Jews from their homes, an operation that was very difficult for many Israelis. But less than 2 years later, the terrorist group Hamas took over the Gaza Strip in a military coup and has since fired more than 12,000 rockets and mortars at Israeli communities. This experience has discouraged most Israelis from wanting to make further unilateral withdrawals. In response to these terrorist attacks, Israel has taken steps to protect its citizens with security barriers, checkpoints, arrests, and other measures that have decreased attacks. Israelis are aware that these have come at a cost for the vast majority of Palestinians who are not involved in terrorism. There is an ongoing debate in Israel about the best way to protect human rights and stop terrorism. Today, most Israelis say they prefer a solution of two states for two peoples. For the sake of real peace, most are willing to take very difficult steps, such as turning over control of most of the West Bank to the Palestinians and ending what some refer to as the occupation. Most are even willing to uproot many of the Jewish communities or settlements in the West Bank, also known by the biblical names of Judea and Samaria, an area that has deep historical and religious significance to many Jews around the world. Yet at the same time, most Israelis have serious doubts that the current Palestinian leadership will ever accept living alongside the Jewish state of Israel. Many Israelis point to the Palestinian leadership's ongoing acts of honoring and celebrating Palestinian terrorists. They also point to Hamas and Palestinian Authority school curricula that deny the existence of Israel. These curricula focus on a return to an exclusively Palestinian homeland in place of Israel. There is a broad consensus in Israel that the strategic depth earned in the Six-Day War, a legitimate war of defense, should not be given up without strong peace agreements. Peace agreements that end the conflict with the Palestinians and the Arab countries and preserve Israel as both a democracy and the nation-state of the Jewish people. Today, in this chaotic and increasingly radicalized Middle East, Israel remains the one stable democracy with thriving Jewish, Muslim, and Christian communities. Israelis take pride in their vibrant and diverse culture, their passion for repairing and improving the world, their many accomplishments in the areas of medicine, science, technology, and the arts, and most of all, their role in carrying forward the 3,000-year-old heritage of the Jewish people.